Here.
Mr. Pizzato.
Here.
Mrs. Garden.
Here.
Mrs. Grant.
Here.
Mr. Salisbury.
Here.
Mrs. Altamonte.
Here.
Here. And I know Joe said he's joining, so he will be joining. So we'll just roll call, and if you could just note who's here in person, who's via Zoom.
Already done.
I appreciate it. Okay, great. Well, thank you again to the citizens of Bellingham for coming and expressing an interest in the charter. I know that we've been at this for some time now and appreciate after town meeting that you coming here and expressing an interest. Tonight's meeting, the agenda, Joe's on.
Yep.
Hey, Joe,
Yes, I am.
we did roll call. Would you just say here?
Here.
All right, great. So we'll start again. We have our roll call completed. The items that we're going to discuss tonight are to review, finalize and vote on the charter to bring to town meeting. Town meeting is where the charter is approved. It is our recommendation to the town that they approve. To vote on the following meeting minutes and also to set a date for to review the charter changes that are being recommended at town meeting to the citizens. So I'll just start that, even though it was number 4. I met via phone with Hillary to find out when a room would be available for us. And she noted that Monday, October 30th, the room is available. There's not a select board meeting that night. So we'd like to schedule that meeting with the citizens, and we can determine how we go about advertising it, getting the word out that we're going to have a meeting here to review the changes to the charter prior to town meeting, 7 p.m. Thank you. Okay. So is that going to work for everybody? I know it's far out, but you know the rooms fill up, and I don't want to leave this meeting without at least having a date. So it's Monday at 7 p.m. on October 30th. All right. And of course, like always, if there are changes and we can't meet, that's understandable. We can figure out a date, but that is probably gives 2 weeks. So if there's any comments or questions after with the system, they can get back to us.
Does that meet the legal requirements? I thought things had to be printed by a certain date.
It's already in the warrant.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I just didn't want something to happen.
Yeah,
No,
no,
that's a technicality.
No,
It's
no.
already in the warrant.
yeah, it's already there, so we should be good. I checked with Hillary today, so it's in the warrant, and basically, once we're done tonight, we'll finalize the document. We'll put the document up on the website with the changes, the red line, and we'll put a new copy. So just like the version we had last time, we'll have, here are all the changes, and here's the explanations in the columns to the right. And then we'll also put a clean copy if somebody wants to download a clean copy as well. So the plan is to do that unless you've got other suggestions.
That's
Great.
fine.
All right, great. So,
That meeting will be Zoom as well.
oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We'd love to have it on Zoom. We'd love to have it available on Cable 8 as well.
Okay, they're showing that.
Oh, I think absolutely. We need to have somebody that knows how to run Cable 8, turn it on. And the plan will also be to speak to the select board to get on their agenda prior to, just to review the changes. Since we are an ad hoc subcommittee of the select board, it is our responsibility to report out to them the changes that we're recommending to the select board. So we will do that. Hillary said that there's a select board meeting on September the 18th, I believe. I asked her about that, and she said there'd be one. She wasn't sure of the date in October, but she was driving, so you know I can't blame her. She's going to get back to me, but I'm thinking that we do it at the beginning of October, so we can get it all done. It was all the break in September. Any questions about the timing or anything? No. Any questions from the attendees via Zoom?
No.
Plan? No? Okay, great. All right. The last time we were together, we went through the charter section by section, all the way through. And we asked all along, I asked all along, are we okay moving forward? Yes, yes, yes. So one area of continued discussion is the residency requirement for the town administrator. So, and on my copy, it's 4-1-2. But it's under town administrator, article 4, town administrator. appointment, qualification, term, and then it says the town administrator. So there's been a lot of discussion. And I think we all, not all of us, but many of us agreed that it restricts the town by finding the best possible candidate by saying he must reside in town. And there are discussions about it. It's my recommendation that we continue to remove it. We talked about this ad nauseum a year ago. We continue to talk about it. I don't see why we would limit this town from only hiring someone that lives in the town of Bellingham or force them to move to the town of Bellingham. It really does restrict us. And I know from they're trying to hire a town administrator, they're not gonna move to Bellingham. They're just not gonna move to Bellingham. And I know that I had a conversation with Mr. O'Connell about this after the meeting. And we had discussed, just candidates in general. And, there was a candidate we had in mind, months and months ago, there might be somebody who would help out, but he would never be able to move back to Bellingham or move it to this area. But it sounded like, if we had the right candidate, we should hire the right candidate regardless of where they live. But I do believe, this is my thought, we would encourage them, strongly encourage them to be a big part of this community. And I can't see why they wouldn't do that. We have a superintendent of schools that lives out of town. We have a police chief now that lives out of town. We have a school principal, high school principal that lives out of town. We have a DPW director that lives out of town. We had the former DPW director that lived out of town. So we had a CFO that lived out of town. It just doesn't make sense to restrict that one position, the most important position in this town, to restrict them to say you need to live in Bellingham. So if there's any further discussion, I'd like to move to that. And I'm open to discussion, but I'd like to move that we just strike that as we've had back as far as July of 2022 when we had this discussion. Any further discussion? No?
No, I
No?
agree with.
I'm not gonna make a big deal out of it. I would prefer. I would like every effort to be made that people do. As I said before, that we make it clear that this position is available. However we can by putting in Bellingham budget, because there's a long span of time that there might be someone in Bellingham that's not aware of what's going on.
Larry, can I interrupt you for a second?
Hold on, let Larry finish, Brian, let Larry finish.
No, just a technical question. I can't hear him.
Oh, you can't, okay.
Yeah, neither can I.
Oh, sorry.
No, they are.
Yeah.
They're
Move
on.
it closer.
Green light, you just gotta pull it
Okay.
closer. Okay, sorry, Brian.
No problem.
I would just like to say that I'd like every effort to be made and to advertise appropriately so people in Bellingham are aware of the positions that are available. And I would be more comfortable with saying something more to the effect that residency preferred but not mandatory. So, because that leaves it open, but yet it's an indication that we'd like to have the person live here or be here. And that's all I have to say. I would just like that, for that, but.
Mr. Chair, I feel comfortable with the language prior, where I think we need to have great faith in our select board. That they can make the right decision for those candidates that do not live in town. If for some reason someone, quote unquote, lives in the neighborhood, let's say Franklin or Midway or Millis, I think we should take that into consideration. So I would feel comfortable that it's a requirement, but that it can be waived by the board of selectmen. Going back to what we previously had.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Calamati.
listen, in my tenure as a police chief in Rentham, I sat on 2 search committees for town administrators. The most important thing was their education and experience. Where they lived made no difference to us. We had one town administrator that worked for us for 6 years. He lived in Pembroke. He was at every meeting that he was required to be at. It's not an encumbrance, and in some cases, it's an advantage because they're apolitical. They don't know what's going on in the town politically. They make the decisions based on what's best for the community in their mind. And so I think it's important that we take somebody from the best candidate we can get from wherever he lives. I mean, we had one guy that they used to rent an apartment just to stay during the week and he'd go home on weekends. So, I mean, it doesn't interfere with a person's ability to do the job. We need a quality candidate who can do the job. And quite frankly, where he lives should be down on the list of things that we need.
Okay. Mr. Salisbury, do you have any comment? Looked like you were starting to say something.
Yeah, my only comment was I couldn't hear Larry. But
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, I think we've heard, I understand what you're saying, and Larry, is when you say best effort, I think that's incumbent upon the select board when they're interviewing to make that comment, to make that statement. We really like you, but to put it in a document like this, I don't think it is required. Somebody could see that's interested in the position and go, geez, I'm just, you know, I don't want to get into the back and forth about me living there and stuff. I'm staying away. I'm not even going to apply because I've been through this before, and I can see that. The world is very, very different today. So the town administrator during budget season, for all intents and purposes, could be working from their home in front of a computer. You know, I mean, I'm strongly recommending that we continue, just remove that line the way it is. And I guess I'm gonna call for a vote on this one, okay, because there's back and forth, so I'm just gonna call for a vote. I move that we keep the language as is, that we strike the residency requirement for town administrator in the charter. So move. We have a first, we have a second. We have a vote. Favor?
Yeah.
Roll call, yeah.
Let's do a roll call
Roll call.
vote. I think that would be better.
Yep.
Um,
Aye.
Mrs. Grant, aye.
Aye. Mrs. Garden?
Aye.
Mr. Strazato?
I'll say aye.
Okay. Mr. O'Connell?
No,
No? Mr. Calamati?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Salisbury?
Aye.
Mrs. Altamonte, I can't see you, and you're on mute.
Nope, I'm a no.
You're a no. Okay. So motion carries.
Motion carries.
What's the vote?
The vote is
Five.
5-2.
5-2.
Two. Wait a minute.
Eight to-
No, Larry.
6-2.
It was
6-2.
Larry was a yes, sorry.
6-2.
6-2.
6-2. Great. Now that we're done with that, that was the last item remaining on the charter. I feel very strongly that we are in a position to move this to town meeting. When is the town meeting, Beth? Do you know the date? Was it the second Wednesday, or Larry? Do you know?
I don't know, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
November 15th.
Thank you. November 15th. I just want that in a minute that we move. I make a recommendation that we move to accept the charter changes as discussed for the last 2+ years.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm in the middle. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to ask you about the fact that we were supposed to talk about the minutes.
Yeah, they're next.
Okay. And the other thing is that last time when we were meeting, we talked about the 2 positions that are left as the quote at large, and we were gonna have more discussion about that. Whether to make them so they are truly at large, they are public.
What 2?
Right now, we have 9 members. Right?
Yeah.
And 7 of them are specified, but there are 2 at-large members, and I talked about them truly being at-large, members of the public.
It doesn't, I mean, I thought we were done. We had that discussion, but that's
No, we
okay. We
did-
can have it.
We had the discussion and we left it that we were gonna talk about it. Yeah,
Okay, fair enough.
it's not in the minutes, so I can't refer to that.
Where is it in here?
I mean, actually,
Okay. To me, it doesn't matter. So Larry, what would your recommendation be? Which board member would you remove, or board member?
No,
Well, I don't think adding 2 is
not
advisable.
2. We have 9 members defined, it's a 9-member committee.
No.
And of the 9, 7 of them are specified,
Mhm.
okay?
Yep.
But there are 2 that are supposed to be at large.
Okay,
okay?
so are you saying you don't want those at-large members to be a member of any board in the town?
I'd like them to be members of the public, that we make an effort at least to make them members of the public.
I don't have a problem with that. Absolutely not. I mean, I don't,
So would you
I'm not-
prefer that we add in language saying that every effort be made
Well,
to,
no, because then it's not gonna happen. I would prefer it say, and I believe the wording is at-large members. And I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. But of the members of the public at large. So that it's in there that there'll be residents or 2 resident members or something like that.
The 2 at-large members
so it says,
should be at-large and not elected officials.
I'll read this. I'll read it and then we can come up with it, because I think we can just say what Mr. O'Connell just said, the 2 at-large cannot be elected members of a board. They could be on a conservation commission, right? Citizens.
Yeah, because
They have a really good input, but they're not elected.
Yeah, because then they're not from the same board.
That's right.
Yeah.
It could be conservation, it could be another board.
Because the
it could
boards are
be-
already pretty much
Yeah.
represented.
Well, I agree. I don't have a problem with that at all. I think it's a good point. So what we'll do then, we'll just, the town clerk and the board, I'm gonna just start at 751, okay? And it says at least once in every 10 years, that we're not changing any of that. Blah, blah, blah. So the committee shall consist of 9 members who shall be chosen as follows: the select board, the school committee, the planning board, the town clerk, and the board of library trustees shall each designate 1 person. Perfect. The finance committee shall designate 2 persons. I don't quite understand why 2 from finance, but, and 2 persons shall be appointed by the moderator. So those, the persons are by the moderator shall be person, but not hold an elected position. And not hold those people, okay? That makes sense?
That way we assure a little more variety and more input.
Can I ask a practical
Yes,
question?
Mrs. Garten raised her hand.
sorry, Brian.
That's all right.
So I'm looking at the first meeting minutes, members in attendance, and we have Brian, he is at large, and you are at large.
No, I'm at large.
Well, right now you are, but in the beginning, the descriptions are Jen's on the school committee, Joe is, and Joyce are on the finance, I'm the library,
Mhm.
Kelly and you are select board, Bill of planning board, Brian is at large and Larry is at large. So we have 2 members that are, well, although town clerk is elected.
The town clerk, actually, it says here, the town clerk. Yeah, because.
Because there are 3 at large, but
So,
we had 2 from the select board, that's what.
yeah, and I
Oh,
was the at large,
And 2 from the planning board, but we had
Okay.
2,
Bones at large, and planning board
Oh.
elected.
but that's my point, the at-large members. The only one that's in the old charter that must have 2 is the finance committee.
Yeah,
So
we
here's,
had-
but here's the other piece to this. They had trouble finding people to be on this committee, so that's how it ended up being the way it was.
Again, if you put it out there and advertise more, I think you could get these. We have all these people here, we've had a lot of people here. So if you let people know what's happening and I don't know how you do that.
No, and that's why I think going forward, if we have that language in there, that will work. I think the makeup of it, the way it looks now,
It's
is
irrelevant.
because that's how it looked now,
Yes, I get it.
because it had to be that way.
But I mean, I think again, you have to let people know that these 2 positions are available for them to be able to apply. And I think you can get.
okay. Mrs. Salisbury, you had a comment?
Yeah, it's just to pick up on what I think what Kelly was saying is that what happens if there aren't 2 people? Does the committee just not meet, or is there a lack of quorum? What happens?
So what happens, what would technically happen is that you now have what was a 9-member board, so technically a 7-member board.
Just like we had that now, we have people that.
We have people that dropped off, so that in effect would happen in your quorum would be 4 as opposed to 5. Right?
Are we gonna remember that?
The only
10
thing
years
I
from now?
can think of, and Brian, you're the lawyer in the room here, the only piece I can think of is that the best effort to appoint a non-elected member You know, and if we have someone that's non-elected that wants to step up and do it, that's fantastic, but if we can't find somebody and the boards insist on having 9 members, then it would be up to the moderator to appoint maybe somebody from, from one of the boards. But
Can I make a suggestion?
Maybe they shouldn't go directly to the select board first and the finance committee first and the planning board first. I understand what you're saying.
Can I make
No,
a suggestion?
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could the wording be, first preference shall be given to the non-elected, you know, under that, the town administrator appoints 2 people, first preference shall be given to non-elective, non-board people. That way, if there's people and they're not part of a board, they get first preference. But it also opens the possibility that if we don't have the people interested, then bodies can be put on the board, people that are otherwise elected.
Just a point of order. 2 members
Yes.
of the finance committee are not elected, were appointed.
They're appointed.
right,
We're not elected, yeah. Yep. Mhm. Mhm.
So that's what I was gonna say when we were talking about you go to people who are appointed, that kind of wouldn't make sense because the majority of the people are appointed by the select board or the town administrator. Whereas elected officials are elected by the public.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but what is that language again? By the moderator, it says,
The original language,
yeah,
It
it's
says-
3, it's 3.
Yeah, well, this language is here. It says the town clerk and the board of what shall designate 1 person. The finance committee shall designate 2 persons, and the 2 persons shall be appointed by the moderator. The at large should be appointed by the moderator. So what Brian's suggesting is we could insert right there that language that Brian just described in that sentence, so that the at large, it will be 2 non-elected officials. First
first
priority,
preference.
first preference. And in that, whoever, I mean, this is 10 years from now. You know, I hope we're all here and standing with our feet on the ground and not looking up at the dirt. But the point is, I think we're beating something to death here that we probably won't have any control over 10 years from now.
Not to beat it to death even further.
Yeah,
I know appointed by the moderator. Why don't we add something similar to what Brian said, but have them apply? Have them show interest. Just because you're appointing someone. If people apply for the position, it shows that they're interested.
yeah, I agree. And I think, I don't disagree, but this process is meant to be a little easier and not onerous on people. And it's challenging enough to find people. You know that, and I think if you just add, and you know what, today it's difficult. I don't know what 10 years is gonna be like. I don't wanna make it difficult for someone to have to fill out an application, be interviewed in front of the select board.
Okay.
Bill, I hear what you're saying. I don't disagree in principle. I just disagree in simplicity. I just think it's difficult enough to find someone.
But if the moderator's appointing and we actually have to put that out there, the people who are interested would have to contact the moderator directly and give them their information. So we could have I'm not saying you have to put it in there, but typically like the form we use when we're looking to appoint people to various committees, it's a very short, you live in town, what's your interest? What are your hours of availability? We could use that same form and have it sent right to the moderator.
I give you an example. You know, a few years ago, we didn't have a full finance committee, right? And I remember having a conversation with the moderator, and he said, "Keith, you know, do you have any ideas who we could reach out to? I just can't get anybody." And that's an important committee in the town. More important than, sorry, this committee right now. I'm not minimizing our efforts here. But it was hard to find people. I mean, I made phone calls to a few people. Well, what do I need to do? How many meetings are gonna be? It was like they gave me the 10th degree, like, no, I don't think so, Don. I mean, even select board members tried to find people, we couldn't get people. So I'm just thinking, if we make it too difficult, we're just gonna scare people away. So that's why, I mean, like, I don't disagree with you in principle. I just don't wanna make it hard for somebody. You know? So do we want to add that language? I don't mind that language Brian, could you say that again? Do you have it?
I have it. So first preference shall be given to citizens who do not hold an elected position and would be appointed by the moderator.
Are you okay with that if we insert that?
Yeah, I just,
All right.
again, 10 years from now, we don't know how.
Well, yeah, but your point's a valid point.
Yeah.
It is, because, you know, again, you could
But
be
it's-
stacking the deck a little bit, you got two planning board members, two select board members, two finance, could be stacking the deck on decisions,
Very good.
right?
And we have people here now, we've had larger crowds. Maybe if they were aware of it, they would have contacted them, you know, update.
I think it's a general issue across
Yes, there
the
is.
town, it's not just with a few positions, right?
I-
Now that there's gonna be 5 Board of Health, good luck trying to find 5 qualified people that know what they're doing in the Board of Health. But we're gonna do our best,
Mhm.
that's right, and that's all we can say here, same thing. So, are you happy with that?
I'm okay.
Is everyone happy with kind of inserting that, read it again, please?
First.
Can you read the
preference-
whole thing?
Yeah, so, here, once you read it and then insert it where you would put it there, you know where to put it.
There. Town clerk, library speech, the finance committee shall designate 2 persons and 2 persons shall be appointed by the moderator. First preference shall be given to citizens who do not hold an elected position.
So anyone is
So,
supposed to out here.
We're just adding that language to the end of,
Mhm.
and 2 persons shall be appointed by the moderator. Those persons shall. First
Kelly,
preference for those positions shall be given to citizens who do not hold elected
Position.
positions.
Kelly, can I ask you to reread the section about the finance committee? Just that language, the finance committee shall appoint 2.
Yes, so the committee, the committee shall consist of 9 members who shall be chosen as follows. The select board, the school committee, the planning board, the town clerk, and the board of library trustees shall each designate 1 person. The finance committee shall designate 2 persons. And 2, this is where I would change it, and 2 persons not holding an elected position shall be appointed by the moderator.
Can I make a suggestion?
First preference.
So I would suggest, if I can, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Go ahead, Brian.
Just keep it the same rhythm as the other appointments. So the finance committee shall designate 2 persons, comma, the town moderator will appoint 2 persons. For first preference being, just, I don't know why the town moderators,
Yeah.
Preference being given to citizens who do not hold an elected position.
right, so it's modifying the town administrator, not everyone else before.
Right, that's right. We'll have to review it. Brian look at it, but I think it's important that we review it.
Preference being given to citizens who do not hold an elected position. Hang on, let me read this back, because I think we got it. 9 members who shall be chosen as follows. The select board, the school committee, the planning board, the town clerk, and the board of library trustees shall each designate 1 person. The finance committee shall designate 2 persons, and 2 persons shall be appointed by the moderator, preference being given to citizens who do not hold an elected position.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes,
So I think
Mr. O'Connell's been raising his.
Sure.
What if we did this to simplify a little bit? When you say first preference, you're implying there's a fallback. Instead of first preference, what if you said ideally, these people should not be elected officials?
She took out first.
I took out first, I just said preference.
You just said
Okay,
preference.
fine.
Yeah, just
I
preference.
didn't catch that, okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. Because first
So you got
preference
it?
means it's something else. I'm good.
Yes, that's why I took out first.
Thank you.
Can I be annoying?
Brian, go ahead.
Can you be,
Yeah,
you can be
please.
annoying, Brian,
Go ahead.
sure.
Thank you. So I still think that a clear way of saying it is that we say it the same way as we say for the finance committee. So the finance committee shall, and I'm remembering, the finance committee shall designate 2 persons. Then the next sentence is, the town administrator shall designate 2 persons.
Town moderator, not
But,
town
yeah.
administrator.
Town,
Yep.
yeah, instead of saying it differently, instead of
Yeah.
saying, and 2 persons shall be appointed by the, it's just cleaner and more direct to say the same way. 2 persons shall be appointed by whom first preference or preference will be given.
Non-elected citizens.
Residents.
I don't have it in front of me, so
Residents. Yeah. Okay. That does make sense.
because my, and I'm paranoid by profession, that the other way, to me, sounds like you can interpret that as the finance committee. Well, no, I guess that doesn't make sense. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I just think it's
Yeah.
cleaner.
Oh, you're a lawyer, can't help it.
Yeah.
You get paid by the hour.
That's right. Keep talking.
All right, is there anything else? So. We've got that, we're gonna add, yeah, we add that, I just wanna. And then we've got the residency reform. Is there anything else that we missed? 'Cause I know that we talked about this. Nothing. So I'm then going to make a motion to move forward with the charter.
I think we need to vote on what we just said.
You want to? Okay.
To
Okay.
be clear,
Sure, absolutely. So, do you want to make the motion, Larry? Since it was your thing?
I do want me to read the whole thing. I make a motion that we accept the, that is it 7-5-1 as written.
Yep.
And
Preference
as
given
written
to
and
us.
discussed.
Second.
We have a first, we have a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, I call for a vote, all in favor?
Roll call, please.
Roll call, yes, Mrs. Grant? You have-
Aye.
Aye. Mrs. Garten?
Aye.
Mr. Pizzato?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Salisbury?
Aye.
Mr. Calamati?
Aye.
Mrs. Altamonte?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez? Aye. A motion carries unanimously. Great. Now that we have that, I am now going to move to motion to take the charter as discussed and reviewed several times with a tremendous amount of input from the committee. Feel we have a really good document to present to the town. We've made changes based upon Mass General Law. We've made gender neutral changes. We've added some provisions for the planning board. We've made provisions inside for the housing committee, and we've made provisions to allow the select board in the unexpected absence of a town administrator to be able to step in and name a temporary or town administrator. We just cleared that all up. So I'd like to make a motion that we move to town meeting with this, knowing that we are going to set a meeting to present the findings to the citizens, the changes to the citizens, to a presentation before town meeting. So if there's any further questions or comments, we can hear them out. But it's really up to the town meeting to agree on this charter. I want to thank everyone on the board. I know there have been times where for 2+ years, we sailed through things, and the last 6 months the last 4 months have been a little rocky, but I appreciate everyone's endeavor in getting through this, and I think we've done a really good job here. So I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
We have a first, we have a second. We have a roll call, or any further discussion? A roll call vote. Mrs. Grant,
Aye.
Mrs. Garten.
Aye.
Mr. Pizzato.
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell.
No,
Mrs. Salisbury.
Aye.
Aye, Mr. Calamati. I didn't hear him.
I think you said.
He said, I thank you. Mrs. Altamonte?
No.
No, so we have motion carries. 6 to 8. 6 votes, 2 noes.
Yep.
We will present the town charter as presented to town meeting. We'll get a clean copy. For everyone, we'll get a redlined version, and both of those will be up on the website, on the town website. Our next now order of business is our meeting minutes. And I know there's been a lot of back and forth, and I'm just gonna say a couple of things before we get started. All of us on this board here were either appointed or asked. We've been serving on boards for a number of years. There's individuals on this board that have been the chairman of boards many times over. You know, there have been people on all the different boards and committees, and I'll just say that, yeah, going back in history, we probably should have reviewed all the minutes, made a vote. And we didn't. Not sure why that didn't happen. I do know that Mr. Frame, because I saw the email today, he sent it to me, because I've had some conversations with him. He did send out meeting minutes to all the board members. And only one person responded to Mr. Frame saying there was an error, and it was Mr. Calamani, who his name was spelled incorrectly. So minutes went out to the board, nobody responded. Everyone knows that they felt as though there was an issue with the way the meetings were being run. Because back then I was really, as the chairman, I was kind of keeping the meetings flowing and going, and it was Dennis. We have meeting minutes that have been kept by our town clerk, who is the manager of our records and keeper of the town. We have meetings by Mr. Kupfer, we have minutes by Mr. Frame, and we have minutes by Mrs. Grant. And if you're saying these minutes aren't acceptable or aren't right, then you're basically calling out those individuals saying they didn't do their job. So what I'm suggesting very strongly, because we've done a really good job, the charter is as Lauren said, is the document, is the living, breathing document, is the document. The minutes are just a record of what happened in the meetings. And I'm strongly urging, if you say, hey, we're not going to approve these minutes, and I hope that you've had all the minutes now for the last couple of weeks, and all these minutes have been available since the very beginning in Mr. Frame's office, in Hillary's office, or Melissa's office. It only took a phone call or an email to say, hey, I need to review the minutes. We're all culpable here. This isn't about me. And I know I've taken a lot of whacks and a lot of attacks being the chairman, but at the end of the day, we're a committee. We're a group that worked harmoniously for several months up until just before town meeting when chaos hit. And I'm not going into that. So I don't understand why at this point that we wouldn't accept the meeting minutes. And if you haven't read all the meeting minutes, then you have no reason to object to approving them. Approving the minutes is nothing. It's the charter. At the end of the day, it's the charter. And I can read something from our first meeting. These were minutes that were taken in our very first meeting, written by Larry. And it said, I think I have it right here. No, this one here. I'm going to read something to you. It was, there was a suggestion to use Google Docs, which was taken under advisement by Mr. Kupfer. Election officers then took place. Mr. Kupfer asked for nominations. For chair, Mr. Martinez offered his name for nomination. Mr. O'Connell then nominated Mr. Salisbury for chair after some discussion. Mr. Martinez made a motion, seconded Mr. O'Connell to nominate himself as chair. Mr. Salisbury as vice chair. With no further nominations, a vote was called. The vote was unanimous. Kelly Grant volunteered to be secretary. Mr. Martinez motioned to nominate Mrs. Grant, seconded by Salisbury. No other nominations were forthcoming. Vote was taken with unanimous results. This is Mr. O'Connell suggested that in the interest of transparency, all agendas and minutes should be posted, although not required by open meeting law, as this is an ad hoc committee of the Board of Selectmen. Mr. Kupfer agreed to post when possible as a means of keeping the public informed of the progress of the committee. We've done everything that we set out for the first meeting. Though they didn't get posted, they were taken, they were available to all of us. It's right here in the minutes. No, sir, not yet. So I just want to point out that, you know, the noise that came about in the last 4 months, forget about it. We've done our job. You've done your job, Mr. O'Connell. Mr. Pizzelli, you've done your job. Everyone here has made wonderful points during this process. Up until town meeting, everything was smooth sailing. We actually voted in July of 2022, if you go to those minutes, to approve the charter as written and less further discussion, right? We approved the charter, and then we moved on to the bylaw. So I don't understand, if we're gonna sit here and beat this to a dead horse, why we would not just make a motion, approve the minutes as presented, unless you've read them and you have a problem with a minute. If something was taken incorrectly, then fine. But it doesn't matter if you were here or you weren't here. It's the charter at the end of the day, that's the formal record. It's not the minutes. Minutes are just a recording. And once the minutes are written, they're a matter of public record, and the public record was available always here, always done in those offices that we needed them. And they were sent by email by Dennis. Because I have the email, Dennis sent me the email today saying, Don, here's the email I sent to the board members, and he said only one person responded, and that was Joe. So I really don't want a big, long debate about the minutes. It doesn't make sense at this point to go into that, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We did our job. Everyone on this committee did their job. I've said enough. I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes as presented, as prepared by Mr. Spizzato, by Mr. Frame, by Mr. Kupfer, and Mrs. Grant. On those scheduled meeting dates. They've been available since day one. They just had to be asked, and I'm asked that they be recorded as approved by this board.
Second.
We were first, we have a second. We have any discussion?
Yes.
Sure.
When this became an issue, I asked a specific question. If any minutes had been replicated. And I was told, yes,
Replicated?
yes,
What do you mean replicated? Minutes replicated.
minutes were written after the meeting based on the knowledge of the meeting. And I was told, yes.
I still don't follow your point.
You want to clarify?
The replicated, I think, was confusing.
Yeah, it's very
I
confusing.
actually do have an issue because, I did write the minutes to the first meeting. And I think that, and I was prepared to vote yes, but I'm not sure that you're really representing exactly what happened. The minutes were not written in a timely manner. We wrote them from notes that we had. We've gone through this at all, and I thought we were gonna move on, but since you brought us back to day one, they were written a long time after I think it was a whole year later. From notes that we had, we cobbled together the minutes based on what I had and what Dennis had. I wrote this, and actually, had these minutes been reviewed, I would have objected to that line in there. That's what was said in the minutes, and that's what you write, what was said. But that's not really correct. That an ad hoc is still a subject to open meeting law.
So what you're saying is you wrote these up,
But
signed them, but
I
you're
wrote it up,
saying
but I
you're-
didn't say it.
no, but you recorded them. So the point I'm making, Larry, is that at the end of the day, and I'm not trying to make a big thing of it, I'm anticipating, no, I mean, I was anticipating it, because I was anticipating you guys were you would have an issue. I have the right to anticipate. I'm not saying you did wrong.
No, no.
We're all anticipating it.
We're all anticipating.
A
You got
delay,
it straight.
delay.
Scott, please. The point is that this has been an issue now for the last 4 or 5 months. It was never raised before. Never. So I guess, Larry, my question to you is then, if you put your name on it and you wrote it, and what Lauren told us in our last meeting, that they can be notes from your note paper. You can put your notes together to make minutes. It's just a record of the meeting. And I think you're making the minutes out to be more than what needs to be done. And I'm just want to move past, because I believe that it's been kind of blown out of proportion at this point. Bill, you've had problems with the minutes. Larry's had problems with the minutes. Mrs. Altamonte's had problems with the minutes. And just the three of you, the rest of us said, you have publicly stated in front of this group.
Well, of course I
And,
have.
okay, but I think we're fine. And we talked about, it's not like we had this conversation. You got minutes in a planning board as an example. You can have all the minutes in the world in the planning board, but if they don't end up in the decision, it's the decision that makes a difference. You can't go back to the minutes and sue based upon what was in the minutes.
Okay,
Right? So why can't we just vote and move on and be done with all the hard work we've done here? What, because at the end of the day, it's the charter.
I understand that.
Decision. So why can't we just, I made a motion,
I
Sue
seconded it.
seconded, and I'm called for a vote.
Yeah, I agree with that, except for you didn't simply make a motion. If you hadn't done that introduction, because that.
was doing it for the audience. Giving some history.
And I'm gonna tell the audience, and please listen to what I have to say.
I'm listening.
We have open meeting law, and we have minutes, there's a defined way that minutes should be written. Minutes are not written a year later. Never done that. It's improper to do it that way, and it might even, and I know
It's
Lauren's
not.
not here right now. Excuse me?
It's not illegal, Larry, because I talked to
Well,
Laura.
why do we have
about
open
this.
meetings?
But you can bring your meetings in. Again, this is an ad hoc committee, like was said.
And but it's, an ad hoc committee is still subject to open meeting laws.
I didn't say we weren't, but Lauren did say that, this is just a record, this is just a recording.
And the other thing was, and again, I was prepared to vote yes, but now I'm gonna abstain.
Okay,
Because the point of the matter is that they were written a year later. There's a lot of inaccuracies in here. I spoke to Lauren, you may not remember this, but Lauren said, when you make a motion, you can make it, accepting that there are discrepancies in there. She said, you remember that? Okay,
Mhm.
so, and the point being is that that's why they're reviewed at every other meeting, the next meeting you review.
Ideally,
Like
yes,
we've
they
done
are.
for the last few months, okay? Because nobody's gonna remember what happened a year ago. And if there's a blatant lie in there, and it was in the minutes, if someone said it, those are the minutes. It's not what I interpret, if I said that, well, so-and-so said something, but it wasn't true, you put down what was said. And then when you review them, you go through what the discrepancy might have been. Okay, so the fact that I wrote them, and that's what I don't like, the fact that I wrote them, I can't question them, I just can't. Because I'm questioning what occurred at the meeting, not what I wrote. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I don't like you framing it in that manner, that's all, that's what I.
I will recant the motion and say, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as written, based upon the meetings, for 2021, 2022, and 2023. There's a first, we have a second. Is there a reason why you're recording this? First and a second, any further discussion? Mr. Salisbury, Mr. Colomati, Mrs. Altamonte?
No, I have no further discussion.
Okay. All in favor of accepting the minutes?
Does Mr. Salisbury have a question?
Mrs. Salisbury, do you have a question?
No, I don't have a question.
You're good? Mrs. Altamonte?
No, no questions.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Our roll call, Mrs. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez is a yes. Mrs. Garten?
Yes.
Mr. Sposato?
Abstain.
Abstain. Mr. O'Connell?
No,
Mr. Salisbury?
Yes,
Yes. Mr. Colomati?
Yes,
Mrs. Altamonte?
No.
No. What do we have? Please
The
Mr. Chairman.
5-3,
One second. Right.
5-3.
We have 5-2 and an
5-2
abstention.
and-
No, 5-2 and abstention, sorry.
So, I'm happy to take, now that we're, Mr. Bissonette had raised his hand.
The reason I came here today, because I was concerned about having that it had to be a resident in the charter. So I'm happy that you did it, but I just have one point of advice.
Yeah.
You have to be ready for town meeting, because when I was at town meeting, I made a statement and said that, we just had got the things 5 minutes before. It should have been just like the ones that come in a package for every, the other one that the finance committee looked at. Those packages are made. So your committee should have a package for anybody who wants one, because that would make it more organized, and people can take them, like we treat it like any other article.
and
You're
I.
working really hard. I know you're working hard. I appreciate it. Trust me.
And we did have, like, when we did did the bylaw.
Yeah.
Previous November.
Yeah.
We presented the same way. We didn't anticipate there being a problem, an issue at town meeting saying, we were actually prepared to take everyone in the town meeting through it. But then the meeting got, kind of messed up with them wanting to pass over, so the committee never got an opportunity
And I,
to present it.
and I,
You know.
no, I wasn't in that battle there. My battle was,
No, you weren't.
but I think the radio lost control. I'll be very honest with you. That meeting was not, because I didn't give you the opportunity.
No, not at all.
And then let you put completely like every other person.
Right. And I couldn't agree more with you, which is why, when it was all done, we said, let's have a meeting with the residents of the town beforehand to review. And the plan would be to pull together a PowerPoint of some of our presentation here in this room, available on Zoom, available by cable 8, and review these changes.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
I find it interesting. I take the point seriously and I appreciate it, but I find it interesting that probably 95% of the people in that room saw the budget for the very first time 5 minutes before.
That's correct.
And they approved it in about 4 minutes.
That's correct. That's correct.
So I find it interesting that this is held to a higher standard than $73 million budget. I just find it comical, that was a big hoo-ha. And it was there.
I think you're absolutely right. It's been done before.
Yeah. We were just doing what the committee, and I wasn't on the previous committee. That's basically, this is how we did it. And then Dennis said, this is how you do it.
My concern was, I was afraid that was gonna be not passed.
Yeah.
So that's.
No, and it was a valid point. And I think in the end, we decided, that let's just let it go and we'll get to work and we'll go through it. And what's interesting is all of the folks that were in the meeting, were there and voted no. I haven't seen any of them here.
Yeah.
70
We've had
people
meetings
in June, we've had meetings in June, July, 2 in August. Other than a few members in the, there has only one meeting, there was a couple that were here that actually had objections. So I find it interesting that it was just sort of this pesky thing that happened at town meeting for whatever their motives were, but we're beyond that.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take that, your recommendation.
I mean,
Maybe we're not beyond it,
no, I.
but I, when we go to town meeting, I can't imagine why this wouldn't get accepted, but
Yeah.
we'd
I
appreciate the
agree
support.
with you, but.
Hmm?
I remember hiring Dennis. And that, my concern was, it's gotta be a professional. And that, the feeling I got when people were saying, well, I moved away, they're gonna just kick out what you tried to do today.
Just try to protect the town,
I
the
know,
best interest of the town,
I.
not the best interest of a few, best interest of the entire
I
town.
agree with you 100%.
Pastor Barry, you had something you wanted to add?
Yes, because of the town meeting, I asked a few questions at the town meeting. And I began to be concerned about the meetings that are being conducted, and that's why I'm here. And since I've been here, your leadership's been very good under a lot of different circumstances and stress that I've seen coming out. But one of the things that I'd like to just give an advice. We have this gentleman who's taking a video right now of this meeting today. And I'd like to just make a suggestion that we could have cable station make these meetings available. So you can go back if somebody says, well, the meetings are not correct. Somebody didn't say this.
Yeah, so going forward right now, we do have them on Zoom, so they're being
Great.
recorded right
Yeah.
now, anyway, and they'll be up on the town's
Yeah.
YouTube channel starting
Yeah.
Usually tomorrow morning, mid-morning, Karen
Yeah.
puts them up. So. I mean, all the meetings since. May
They-
or June are all up there.
And we had one Zoom prior to as well. They may not be up there, but we had them Zoom, but they may not be in a library somewhere.
And again, just to close on what I'm saying is, since I've been here on quite a few of these meetings, I can see that you guys really worked hard, and I can imagine what this has been for a couple of years. And I was concerned when I heard all these things at the town meeting, but since I've come here, all I've seen was just hard work putting this together, trying to work it together. So I just want to commend the committee on the hard work that you've done.
Our newest, selectman member, Jan,
I
yeah.
just have a question to the town clerk. So David, who works for you, is doing this film. Are you gonna put this up so we can all have see this video?
My own private thing, this has anything to do with the town. This is my own private video.
Well, I know, but I would think that if he's video all of us.
Well, we'll check with the ethics commission, because he's an employee over there, so we'll check with the
This
ethics
is a public
commission.
forum.
I think it becomes part of the public record, does it not?
No. it's
I don't know, we'll find out. We'll be calling the state tomorrow. Yes.
One other question, I came in here earlier to pay my excise taxes, and I'm wondering, excuse me? No, I came into town,
Yeah,
and one of the things I saw this gentleman and the clerk Larry speaking in the clerk's office. And I just want to know, is this because of the meeting? I'm just asking.
No, he's an employee. He works in the town clerk's office.
Okay, well, I'm just asking because kinda, you've been in this meeting before and you've never recorded. That's why I'm just asking.
It's like recording.
But
It's a free world. We can do whatever I want, right?
He recorded the last meeting
Oh, okay.
and the meeting before
it's okay.
that.
I'm just trying to figure this out.
I mean, we're recorded on Zoom anyway, so it's.
Mr. Hamway, and then we're gonna call it quits here pretty soon, so.
I would like to just say that the work of this committee is appreciated. I definitely appreciate you taking on that chaotic town meeting. Dealing with that was unpleasant and unfair. Then we get to these meetings and some of your own committee members are questioning your integrity. I find that abhorrent. I worked for 6 years on the library board of trustees with Mrs. Garten. You couldn't find two people more diametrically opposed in terms of politics. Her and I got a lot done on that library board. A lot of things got done because we worked together and there was no friction. I admire you for your intestinal fortitude. And I'm gonna say this, I wanna say this. When I was a young pup in my early 20s covering the Boston Celtics, Red Auerbach said to me, in the end, class tells, and you've got a lot of class.
Thank you, but the whole committee worked very hard.
Yes.
It's just unfortunate that right after right up to the town meeting, after Mr. Frame went out, we had made a lot of progress, and then whatever hit the fan, it hit the fan. And the goal has always been to make sure that this charter is up to date with Mass General Law, that we do whatever we can to protect the town. We make it gender neutral to be current with the times we are today, and that was the intent from the very beginning. And we hopefully finally accomplished it, and we can move on and we can go to town meeting. And on October the 30th, we'll have a meeting here. We'll make sure that the residents know far enough in advance. I'll check with with Beth to see if we can do a code red prior to announcing it, putting it up on the website as well. We'll do all those things.
When is that gonna be?
October 30th, it's a Monday night.
It's okay, I just wanna make sure I have my youngest daughter getting married, so I wanna make sure.
Well, we don't want to interrupt that. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
I would do it earlier, but I am gonna be away. I already know I'm away the week before. But I talked with Hillary to make sure that when could we And she said Monday night, there's no select board meeting on the 30th, so. Yes,
That also will be afterwards as well.
what's that?
That'll be available after.
What will be?
That meeting. It's gonna be recorded, correct?
Oh, yeah,
If it's on Zoom, yeah.
So if he's not available, you can
Yeah,
watch it.
watch it on TV.
you can watch it
I'll be at a wedding.
Halloween evening if you want.
No, it will be available between then and the town meeting.
Right. So I'm gonna take one more comment because I know this committee's worked really hard and it's dinner time for a lot of you. Again, I'll just say again, thank you so much for coming. Mr. Simpson?
Yeah, thank you for the hard work. Okay, you've done on this committee. My concern is, now this has been voted to go to town meeting, correct? I think 6-2.
It's our recommendation to go to town.
My concern is, are we gonna have the same charade as we had the last town meeting? And that's the way I perceived it. But are we gonna have the same players in the same charade?
Yep.
And then what happens
Then
after
what
that? Are we back here again?
So that all comes down to, it's up to the, it's all dependent on the residents who show up at the meeting. You know, it is a town meeting style government, so everyone has the right to attend. the
I don't
meeting.
wanna criticize, but you're not supposed to make a motion to, from the floor without any reason.
So that doesn't have anything to do with us, that
I know,
obviously
it's
would
not
take
your
it up
fault.
with the moderator and, so I guess
I don't wanna be criticized them, but it's not.
but that would lend to then maybe reach out to the moderator and ask how he plans on.
Not losing control.
Handling the meeting should that happen, but I think the idea is to go forward with the charter, have that big citizen meeting on the 30th, so that everyone has that opportunity to ask those questions and have a discussion in a forum where that is the only thing on the agenda for that night. And so by the time it gets to town meeting, everyone has had an ample opportunity to ask their questions, read the charter over, talk to whoever they want to talk to. So it would eliminate what happened in May.
That'll be
Um,
on too, correct? That meeting?
Town meetings typically.
Yes.
That's The residents meeting you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes,
we're
they just
definitely
said that, so
recorded.
it'll be same, like Zoom right now, you guys see the box that pops up when the meeting starts saying. We click out of it, but it says this meeting's being recorded, that's for this exact purpose.
So I will make it incumbent upon myself to be here early. To understand how to turn on cable 8 and maybe ask one of you if you're here and show you which buttons to push when we start.
They don't have to do it.
Okay?
I used to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's easy.
It's easy, it's one button now.
We should, yeah.
There is one button.
Actually, no, it's like 3 buttons, they're like red, yellow,
So
green.
we'll do that. And if for some reason, because of whatever happens during the day, remind us, hey, is it on cable? And we'll pause and we'll make sure that it's on. That's okay. Because I agree. It should be, and we want to and we'll even get it advertised that, you know, when they turn on that station on their TV, they might see that it's gonna be popping on at 7 o'clock at night. We'll go through it. But we're hoping that we can get that done in an hour or so. And if I get a sense, or anyone on this committee get a sense that this might be like 100 people, we might have to adjust where we have the meeting.
As well as the date.
Yeah, oh, agreed, absolutely. So if we get a sense a lot of people are gonna show, that's great. Maybe we'll have,
That's the intent.
we want them to know.
I thought that's what was happening, but only
Well-
a few showed.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, I appreciate the few that did show. All right, so we have satisfied our agenda. I am gonna call for a motion to close this meeting at 6:05. First, we have a second. Any further discussion? Would like to poll the group. Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Martinez, yes. Mrs. Garten,
Yes.
yes. Mrs. Pizzato, Mr. O'Connell,
Yes.
Mr. Salisbury,
Yes,
Mr. Calamati.
Yes.
Love you both. And Mrs. Altamonte.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Everyone have a nice evening.
Thank you all for coming.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
thank you.